All right, what's up guys? This is Brenton Brown from Forza Tuning and Performance. And here we are for part 2 of the ultimate Hellcat build. Here we go. We can kind of go to the front. Here's something that I want to address, okay? For some reason, I'm not a big guy on the forums because I'm busy as shit and I don't have time to sit and chit chat on forums all the time. And half of it's a bunch of bullshit, nonsense being talked back and forth. But one of these common things that I hear on these cars is mid-muffler delete thing, which this car has. So I'm gonna show you what that is. So we always use the 100% stock catback exhaust on every single car except for the Trackhawk, okay? The Trackhawk has that stupid suitcase muffler. It's restrictive, it sounds like shit, and you can legitimately add power by changing it. All the other cars, you don't add any power changing from the stock catback to an aftermarket, okay? So it's common on these forums supposedly to do this mid-muffler delete shit, okay? And this is what this looks like. So there's some factory, these are not mid-mufflers, these are resonators that go here, okay? Resonators do not restrict horsepower, okay? They do not add power. All they do is stop engine drone at highway speeds, which I don't know about you all, but that is not something that I ever want in my car. So they take it to exhaust shop and they delete them. This is what this looks like. And this is not even as bad as most of the ones we see. I mean, this looks like complete shit. So we did not do this. I don't condone this. I don't even condone changing any of the stock catback exhaust on any of these. So this is what's happening when you're taking it to the exhaust shop for a mid-muffler delete. This is what you get. This was already done. We're gonna leave it like this. If he doesn't like it, we're gonna put the, I have extra sets of mid-mufflers, we're gonna fix it. But we get a lot of questions about this, so this is what this is, and this is why I'm suggesting not doing that. But it's personal preference, so all I can do is give my suggestion. Drive shaft, same thing. You'll see right here on all these bolts. Again, every single bolt is torqued and it's paint marked, and this assures that it has been torque tested, and also it will assure that if the bolt is moved or loosened or anything else. So moving on from underneath, right here, you'll see the long tube headers. This is going to be for a race application, so you'll see it has cat delete pipes. These are a custom set of headers made for us by American Racing Header. They feature 2-inch primaries to a 3-inch collector, and then the cat delete pipes that transition over to the stock catback. I use several exhaust manufacturers, and I can't say that one is specifically better than the other overall. I think they're all really good at certain platforms, and then some other ones are really good at others. I really like American Racing Header on the Hellcat platform and the Trackhawk. I think they make great stuff. They have stellar customer service. Their stuff fits really well. They're just a good company to deal with. In all the years I've been buying from them, never a single problem. So it's primarily my go-to exhaust manufacturer on the Hellcat-based platform. And you can see this is tremendous quality. Made out of high-quality stainless steel. These cars will come in years later. The headers look exactly the same. There's no modifying or denting or any stupid shit like that you got to do to get them to fit. They fit perfect every single time. That's the exhaust. Up front, you don't see anything too much different. We do not even touch the front suspension on this car. It's 100% stock. But you will see that every single thing on this front suspension, brakes and everything, has been torque tested to factory spec and paint marked. The factory doesn't even do this, okay? So we try to take it above and beyond what the factory would even do. So this is kind of the underneath side of a Stage 4R, Hellcat, Red Eye, whatever. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower it down, and I'm gonna kind of show you all front to back. I'm gonna show you how we do the ultimate Stage 4R Hellcat build and the proper way to do it. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so we lowered the car down a little bit. While we're here, I wanna show you what's inside here. This is very discreet, but what you see in here is a heat exchanger we add, okay? This is a 2-inch thick core. It's a bar and plate style heat exchanger. We do not replace the stock one. What we do is add this in line. So you still have the stock heat exchanger. And honestly, they did a really phenomenal job on the heat exchanger and the cooling system for the supercharger. It does really good. So we add this to make it even better. And any little thing that we can possibly do to make it better, like you'll see in here, you see these blue silicone hoses. We don't use the regular rubber hoses because after a while they get hard, they deteriorate. Just silicone is much better. The silicone hoses cost more, but our main goal is quality. I'm not gonna shortchange anything at the expense of quality. I'm gonna put it in the package. That's why the packages are so thorough, and because our main goal in this is not, everybody wants a lot of power and everybody wants a fast car, and that's great. That's what we're trying to build. But our main goal on all these packages is maximizing reliability. Okay, so anything that we can possibly do to make the car as reliable, or our goal is more reliable than stock, even though it's more power, we do everything that we can possibly do. So even though the factory doesn't use silicone hoses, they're all rubber hoses. If we touch something on a car, we are going to do the best thing that we possibly can. So that's why you see silicone hoses. And every single car that has our name on it, it's held to this level of quality. So this does a really good job. This is spec'd to a specific size where it fits behind the front bumper, and it's totally reversible. We do not trim any of the bumper on the car. So if somebody wanted to go back, or you sold the car and they didn't like it, nothing on the car is hacked up in any way, shape, or form. And I also want to point out that that goes for every single thing we do on the car, okay? Anything that we have to wire to the car, we make custom harnesses that are plug and play. So none of the factory wiring harness in the car is stripped, spliced into anything. You can literally unplug every single thing that we put on the car from front to back and very easily convert it back to a stock car. And I think that's important, because you might sell it and not everybody wants the same thing. You got wiring harnesses that are spliced into, hacked. In my mind, the car is never quite the same, so I think it's important to lay that out and build a package that's like that. Okay, now I'm gonna pop the hood, but another thing I want to talk to y'all about. So this car in here has been built and has been in here for a little bit. It has not yet been test driven. The car and the state that it's in, although it's not the cleanest, you will see some residual dust. You can see it on the windshield. When cars are under our care, this is literally the dirtiest you will ever see a car in here. You can ask anybody that's randomly popped in here. Our side door is always open. Customers randomly pop in here. Every car is detailed fully from the time it comes in, okay? And there's a specific reason for that in every single thing we do here. Because when you put a fender cover or anything else over the car to properly protect the paint, if there's any type of dirt or dust or anything like that sitting on top of the paint, and you put a fender cover over it, it's going to grind that dust into the paint, okay? And it's going to scratch it. So every single car is kept spotless. And if you look around here, you've probably seen on our videos, you'll notice that every single car in here is kept on a battery tender the entire time it's in here. Okay, when your car goes somewhere and they don't put it on a battery tender, the battery runs low, they charge it up real fast, that damages the battery in your car, okay? I wouldn't want that done to my own car, so it doesn't get done to anybody else's car. So there's small details that you'll see if you pay attention to the background of all these videos that are taken on every single person's car, okay? So that's something we're super proud of. And everybody here does a really good job of that. And I think it just shows respect. People spend a lot of money on these cars. It's more than just a car to them. It's their pride and joy, it's their stress relief. I think it's important that you treat that person's car with respect, just like, you would want your own stuff treated with respect. So I'm gonna pop the hood. Okay, so this is under the hood. This looks fairly stock, okay, and that's kind of the point. I'm not really into a bunch of the gaudy aftermarket stuff and you get all this chrome dress up bullshit going on. I think it looks kind of tacky. So this is about reliability and functionality, okay? A lot of this stuff you can't see, so I'm gonna kind of tell you, what we've done, okay? Number one, we've changed to a 160-degree thermostat, okay? For all y'all that's too cold to run the engine and all that other shit, with this thermostat in here, the car is gonna operate between 181 and 185 degrees. I don't care if you're in Louisiana, Florida, Texas, Arizona, that's what they're gonna run, okay? The reason the 160-degree thermostat is that ensures that the thermostat is fully open when the fans are running, okay? What you don't want when you're speccing a thermostat is you can't think that 180-degree thermostat and the car is gonna run at 180. It doesn't work exactly like that. What a 180-degree thermostat means is the thermostat is going to be opened up fully, technically at 180 degrees. If you're gonna run that car really close to that temperature, what you don't want is that thermostat partially open. okay? Because what that does is that restricts coolant flow through the engine block, through the cylinder heads, and what could happen is you can get hot spots, okay? So even though your coolant temperature sensor is reading, 180 or 185, you have to think of that's only where that coolant temperature sensor is mounted, okay? It can't monitor the temperature throughout the entire block. So if you have a thermostat that's very close to the fan setting range that you want, and the thermostat is half open, you've got half the flow of coolant going through the block to cool it thoroughly, okay? What we do is we run a 160, okay? And so I know that the thermostat should be all the way fully open by 160 degrees. But even if there's a little bit of a lag and it's not 100% accurate, I know that it's going to at least be fully open by 165 degrees. And then we program the fans, because they're pulse width modulated, to keep the temperature exactly where we want it, okay? And we have full coolant flow through the entire engine the entire time, okay? So even though that's something as easy as the thermostat, that's why we do that. And it's just something most people don't really think about. Spark plugs, we never use the stock plugs, okay? We run brisk spark plugs, brisk racing. Not always the same brisk spark plug. It's gonna depend on what kind of fuel they're running, how much boost, how much power the car is making. But my personal opinion, these are the best spark plugs that I've ever used. And there's a lot of guys that like NGK. I have no problem with NGK. It's also a very high quality plug. But if I had my choice between the two, I personally choose brisk. We also put an ATI overdrive crank pulley on it, okay? I'm a huge fan of ATI. I think they make a great product. So actually part of our stage 2 package is, and I get this question a lot, we do not touch the supercharger or the supercharger pulley until stage 4. There's a specific reason why we do that. So stage 1 is we modify the PCM, we install a security bypass cable if it's a 2018 and up in order to properly tune it. We change the spark plugs to the brisk, and we do an appropriate spark plug gap for the power range. And we change the thermostat and we tune it. Okay, so that's stage 1. Stage 2 is stage 1 plus the ATI lower pulley, okay? And there's a specific reason why we do that, okay? Number 1, the ATI pulley is a far superior pulley that you can put on the engine over stock. And it's not just a pulley, it's a crank dampener, which means it's responsible for balancing the engine. That in and of itself is a huge bonus. Number 2, none of the Hellcat based engines, the crankshafts are not pinned. What that means is most crankshafts and crank dampeners have a keyway. The damper can't spin on the crankshaft, okay? For whatever reason, they did not do that on these. They put a coating on the backside of the bolt that was supposed to stop it. But there's been numerous issues where on a bone stock car, the crank damper spins on the crankshaft. So if that happens, that can damage the front of the crankshaft of the engine. That will require the engine to come out and the entire engine be tore down and either the engine replaced or the crankshaft replaced or repaired. That's a huge catastrophic failure, okay? So the easiest way to remedy that is pin the crankshaft, which is predominantly done on any production car ever, especially supercharged. The second part of that is if you have a supercharger of this style, you're gonna have 2 options on increasing boost, okay? You can either do a bigger crank pulley or you can put a smaller supercharger pulley. Both ways accomplish the same thing. They spin the supercharger faster to produce more boost. I prefer to always go with the crankshaft pulley first 99% of the time because number 1, we have a better balancer on the engine. Number 2, the crankshaft needs to be pinned anyway. So if you're gonna do something to add power and you can simultaneously add reliability, I think that only makes sense. Number 3, the higher you increase the boost, the more resistance there is turning this supercharger, okay? So the likelihood of you having belt slip, which is basically the belt slipping around the pulley, is increased. If you put a larger crank pulley on, you are increasing the surface area between the pulley and the belt, okay? If you put a smaller supercharger pulley on, you're decreasing the amount of surface area between the pulley and the belt. Obviously, you don't have to be an engineer to decide that you're gonna have a less chance for belt slippage going larger on the crankshaft, okay? So to me, that just makes more sense. Stage 3 is the headers that we showed you, okay? So it's stages 1, 2, plus headers the specific or custom long tube headers, cat delete pipes or high flow cats, depending on if you're racing the car or not. And what that does is that's basically freeing up the exhaust system. That's actually decreasing boost a little bit because it's relieving back pressure in the engine, okay? And you have to think of boost as not as an indicator of power, it's just an indicator of back pressure in the engine. So if you can do something to cause the engine to flow better and lose a little bit of back pressure or boost, but increase power, you're relieving strain on the engine and at the same time increasing power, okay? And then a lot of guys want the car to sound a little bit more aggressive. So kind of serves multiple purposes. After stage 3 is where we get to stage 4 and 4R. The only difference between 4 and 4R is 4R includes the driveline modifications and upgrades, things like heat exchanger and drive shaft and billet rear arms and diff brace and all that other stuff. And that's basically so the car's bulletproof at that power level, okay? So stage 4, what we do to get the extra power is a couple different things. Number one, we modify the supercharger, and that goes much more in depth than changing the supercharger pulley. We have seen numerous supercharger failures, and in my personal opinion, the Hellcat superchargers got a really bad rap in the beginning. Failures and noise and so on and so forth. And while there are a few things inside there that could be stronger and need to be upgraded, the biggest problem I saw were people slapping pulleys on the front, running them too hard, and damaging the supercharger without making the necessary modifications because either they didn't know better or didn't know how or didn't know what to do. And all the cars we've done, I've literally seen 2 that needed to be repaired or modified a little bit. 0 catastrophic supercharger failures, none that couldn't be easily fixed. This sums up part 2 of the ultimate Hellcat build. We're gonna be releasing part 3 on Friday's video. So if you wanna check it out, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Friday morning, part 3, and you can see the end of the build. Thanks guys, and we'll see you again next time.